The average Canadian has had to rely more on their credit card than any other time in history, as the cost of utilities, rent, mortgages, and even groceries has skyrocketed faster than ever in recent history. To put a figure to this, the average credit card debt of a Canadian has increased from $3,700 last year, increased to more than $4,100. This isn't even the most mind-blowing statistic. According to a CNBC article, 62% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck post-pandemic, with 96% saying that over the holidays in 2023, they felt like they were likely to overspend beyond their means. Overall holiday spending increased by 4% over last year, regardless of higher inflation and the higher cost of living. So what exactly is going on? Why is it so bad? Is this just a perpetual debt cycle that we're stuck on and we're never going to get out of? Let's break it down and figure out how you can survive this cost of living crisis and how you can come on the other side better off than you were before. One of the best ways I've found to save a little bit of money and get ahead of most people is when I need one or two things and somebody is already going out, to ask them to buy it for me, and of course I'll pay them back. But just the fact that I don't have to go to the store and look around and potentially buy things that I do not need is a fantastic way to save money. Sometimes if I'm in a rush and need something, I end up buying a treat or something else because I'm either hungry or tired, and I end up spending much more than I really needed to. The second logical thing you can do is to buy a Costco membership. Here in Canada, a gold membership costs about $60 per year. I have 6 roommates currently, and so we split it to $10 each per month. And during our first grocery haul, I ended up getting a 4-pack of tofu, some frozen fruit, and some Tostitos and salsa, which of course is my favorite. And just in this trip alone, I got my $10 worth for that entire year. We did the math, and even just a 4-pack of tofu saves you about $7 over going to something like Walmart. Another great thing about Costco is that it is combined with a gas station that is notorious for having gas prices that are much better than those in the surrounding area. I've noticed that it's between 10 and 15 cents difference. It definitely adds up and will save you between $4 and $7 per fill up. But as we discussed in the last video, it's very important to know your prices and to not overbuy to the point that you are wasting food. Something I've just started doing recently is to combine my daily commute with a bit of discipline. Let me explain. So I recently moved to a suburb of Toronto where the nearest train station is about 5 minutes away to get to the office, but there's very limited parking at that station. So what I have to do is drive 15 minutes to the next station, which is actually further away from work, to a spot that I can park. But instead of doing this, I decided I would give it a try to ride my bike, which takes about 15 minutes. And when I do this, I crunch the numbers and it saves me about $15 every single day I go to the office. This is combined train fare, which is a little bit more if I go to the next station, but also the gas money that I would spend to get there. And so this is kind of my motivation to get that little bit of discipline out of myself and just bike to the train station. Even on mornings when it's a little chilly, I'm always happy when I get there. I saved some money and had a bit of discipline to just push myself to get there. So really, what does this matter in the end? For me, it's about $180 per month back in my pocket, and I also get my daily cardio in right there, so I can literally just do my strength exercises at the gym and not waste my time on a treadmill. So fantastic. And although this sounds great, if you're doing this in practice, it's pretty miserable sometimes. If you don't have a good set of gloves or a good hat in the mornings, it can be pretty brutal, especially in cold climates like here in Canada. But on those really cold days, I'm planning to just either carpool with some of my other roommates, or if I really need to, just drive myself. But it's the idea that I can save this money whenever the weather is favorable, and even if it's not, maybe push myself a little bit and to build a bit of character for myself. This is a big one for me, and it pains me because I used to love doing this, but that is to reduce your consumption of bottled drinks that you buy at the store. I used to love buying all my fancy juices and milks and fermented drinks like kombucha and kefir. Since then, I've decided to cut about 90% of my consumption of these drinks. I noticed that not only was it a drain for my wallet, but it was also affecting my health, and I was getting a lot more sugar intake than I otherwise needed to. And you guys might remember Derek, who is from our frugality episode a couple of weeks ago.
I see a lot of people spending like tons of money on like soft drinks, like beer, fruit juices, and all that stuff. And I look at it from like a health perspective first. And I see like sugar as like, you're not only like harming your wallet, but you're also like harming your health.
He also swears by this and says it saves him hundreds of dollars per month by doing so. In my experience, it saved me about $50 to $80 every single month, which is pretty staggering just for bottled drinks, and I usually replace it with either water, or you can do something like invest in a soda stream, which actually got gifted to me, so that was a great blessing, and just make sparkling water to make your life a little bit more exciting. And you can even buy a barrel and make your own wine if you want. You do you. You also need to be realistic with your money-time trade-off. Oftentimes, where people go wrong with frugality, simple living, and minimalism is the idea that you need to do everything yourself and save the most amount of money like that. Although this is useful for some people, in certain cases this doesn't really make a lot of sense, and realistically you're just wasting your time. For those with not too much on their schedule, or they work part-time or are in retirement, this is absolutely fine and you can save a lot of money by doing this. But I'm talking more about the people who are running a business, or they might earn a little bit more money to the point where it makes more sense to focus on your craft and let someone else do something for you than doing it yourself. Let me explain what I mean by this. If, for example, you value your time at $200 per hour, this is the value you create for your clients, for your business, whatever you're doing, and it takes you roughly 3 hours to change your oil and to get all the panels on from the bottom of your car, get the oil filter in, all that kind of stuff. Essentially just doing an oil change would take you 3 hours. If a shop would charge you $200 for a mechanic to do it for you, it would make a lot more sense for you to go to a mechanic, because in realistic terms, in terms of your time, this would cost you $600, which is 3 hours multiplied by $200 per hour. So just be aware of roughly what you are currently earning per hour, or what you think your time is worth, and just make smart decisions in that regard. One that I still struggle with but wanted to add in here because it is something I'm working on is to get over your ego and not care about what others think when you spend less than they do. This is easier said than done, and when you're out with a bunch of people or your team at work and everyone's buying food and buying drinks and doing all this stuff, and you're sitting there and you don't want to order food because you want to save money and you instead just order a beer or a water, this can be very tough and you'll have to explain yourself, but over time you'll get used to it. And I just keep reminding myself that everything I don't spend and they do, I'm a little bit more ahead, and that I'm learning and that I'm getting closer to the goal that I want to achieve, which of course is financial freedom and minimalism. It also gives me a sense of discipline and self-control when I'm not controlled by what other people want me to do, and it's more my decision where I want to spend my money. Buying the same things and doing the same actions as other people do and your coworkers and your friends will ultimately lead you down the same path that they are on, which is oftentimes living paycheck to paycheck and always being in a financial pinch. So if you want to stand out, you're gonna have to be a bit uncomfortable, and just don't let your ego get in the way. So the key here is to just put your pride aside, to go to that supermarket that has discounts, use coupons, don't care about what people think, and refuse to order food or drinks when other people do. It might be a little bit difficult to do this, and I'm not saying that you can never eat out or have a beer with your friends. That's of course completely fine, and if you budget for it, that is absolutely what you should do. But I'm just saying, in cases where you feel like you aren't in a good place to do it and you sort of got dragged into going out, but you still want to have a good time, it doesn't hurt to just, stand your ground. Don't buy food, don't buy that drink. It's completely fine. Seeing every purchase as if you are robbing your future self. That's a tough one. I wasn't sure if I was going to put this in the video because it is very strong in terms of how you need to think about this in order to digest it, but it just works so well for me that I thought it might help you as well. I happened to hear this on a podcast a couple of months ago, and it really stuck with me. The idea that I was robbing my future self every time I bought something I didn't need and wasn't propelling me forward in my life. So every single time I go and buy something that isn't in my budget or isn't necessary or is more of a want than a need, I stop and think about this. And it's just so true. If you think about compound interest, which if you aren't sure what it is, look it up or check out my other videos. It is such a powerful tool to get you to financial freedom. But if you always think about what the money you are spending could compound into, it's a great way to motivate you to spend less and to just keep more money in your pocket overall. But this does come with a caveat because you need to be very careful with how far you take this. You need to enjoy life too. You need to buy certain things. You can't let this mindset drive you over the edge and just not spend anything anymore. So just be aware of this and keep that in mind. Use it as kind of a guiding force, not as something that is just law and you can never spend anything, because that will make your life very interesting. Something I'm definitely guilty of, and is something I'm currently working on, is to not let the endowment effect get the best of me. So what the endowment effect is, it's a form of loss aversion. It's the idea that if you own something, you don't want to lose it, and you actually end up valuing the things you own more than if you didn't own it and were going to purchase it. If you wanted a mug, you might be able to pay $3 for it. But if you already owned that mug and you had to get rid of it or you had to sell it, you would probably ask closer to $5 or $6. There's numerous studies on this very interesting concept in psychology, and it has to do with how we want to own things that are ours and we want to keep them in our possession. Slowly, I've been getting better at this and just trying to sell things I don't use on a regular basis. With my movement to minimalism and to simplify my life, it's been very empowering, and I definitely encourage you to do the same. Not only will this make your life simpler, but it'll also put some money back in your pocket. So if you can slowly start doing this with smaller things first and kind of build that up. If you are somebody that suffers from the endowment effect, absolutely do this. It will change your life. And the best way to do this is to just start by thinking of yourself as a minimalist. Is it something you use frequently? Is it something you haven't touched in years? If you haven't, maybe it's time to get rid of it, and that's completely fine. Make sure you always check secondhand sites first before buying something. Whenever I want to buy something, I used to just go and purchase it because I didn't really want to waste time looking around. But then I started realizing that places like Facebook Marketplace, Carrot, there's so many different services, even thrift stores, where they offer secondhand items that are sometimes dirt cheap, if not even free, that you can scoop up. For example, when I first moved to Toronto, I really needed a coffee table. Nothing special, nothing crazy. I just needed something simple that I could put my remotes on, my food on when I was eating. And so instead, I was just looking around and didn't really want to spend much, but they were all over $50, which I definitely didn't even have at that time. So what I did is I went to look on Facebook Marketplace and I found some crazy good options. Even one that was completely free. This woman wanted to get rid of it, and she said pick up today in her ad. So I went over there within the hour, got it for free. She was grateful because she was moving and wanted to get rid of it, and I ended up spending $50 or more less than I otherwise would have. In the worst case, you'll end up paying that same price because you couldn't find anything. But in the best case, you might even get something a lot cheaper or maybe even free and save yourself a lot of money. Something I've realized I'm very passionate about more recently is the feeling of not spending. I used to just spend everything I got and found pride in a way of spending my money and buying things as a way of showing that I had earned that money. It was kind of a weird concept, but more recently I found that at the end of the month, when I did spend most of my money or all of my money or went over budget, I actually got quite upset and wanted to really change that. And since then, I've been using this on-the-go daily budget tracker, which you can check out right here. I'll put it in the description below. It is a great way to just keep track of what you spend every single day. And at the end of the month, you're a lot happier because you know what you've spent. The feeling I have too when I look in that on-the-go budget tracker and see 5, 6, 7 days with no spending in terms of wants. Of course, my needs and fixed costs are always there. But when I see that I haven't spent unnecessary money, I just feel very good about myself. I feel disciplined. I feel in control of my finances. And at the end of the month, I just feel like I did a better job when I see that surplus in my budget, and it feels very empowering. So every time I go to buy something now, I also think of that feeling when I spend less, how I feel versus how I feel at the end of the month when I spend all of the money I earn. But ultimately, how you save money is completely up to you. You are the pilot in your life, and it's in your control. I really hope these ideas help you to save a bit more money and to get through these tough times. We can get through this, and we will. But if this video helped you, I've got another one right here that'll also be very helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next one.